Welcome to my newest movie. This time I'm going to speak because it's a little more involved than just following the pattern. So now we're going to cover the frame that we created in the first movie, and here is the frame. If you'll notice, I added a wire along the top of the brim to stabilize it a little bit and maintain the shape. It'll give you a chance to shape the bonnet better to your head, and it makes it look nicer because it has structure. The next step is to take the circle pattern piece that you used for the top of the bonnet and to use that to cut a circle to cover the top of the bonnet. That's the first piece of fabric you want to put on, and you want to make sure that you give a nice allowance of extra fabric so that you can fold it over the edge because you want it to look clean. So go ahead and cut it maybe 3/4 of an inch or maybe even an inch wider along the circle, the edge of your pattern piece. And don't worry if it's perfect because it's going to be covered up, the edge is going to be covered up, so if it varies in size a little bit, it doesn't matter. So now you've trimmed it up and you can lay it on top of the hat like so, and then you want to start folding down the edges. Now in any of the steps that follow, you can either use a sewing needle and thread, or you can do what I'm doing because I'm lazy and use hot glue. Hot glue works just as well as anything, and I'm going to continue to justify the use of hot glue because at the rate that I have to make bonnets, sewing sometimes isn't the best option. And so you sew or glue all the edges down along the stovepipe itself, and there you go. You have a nice clean top. And now the next step is to make sure that you cut 2 pieces for the brim. I'm not doing a complicated gathered brim with this particular bonnet, but you are welcome to do that as well. For now, I'm just going to show you how I cut 2 pieces of fabric in the shape of the brim piece. I also allowed for a 1/2 inch allowance around the front and bottom edge of the brim. I didn't bother with the inside brim adding any extra fabric because that's going to be glued or sewed in place. But the reason why I did the allowance was because we're going to go ahead and sew those 2 pieces together, just like so. And then we're going to turn the brim piece inside out and use it to cover the stovepipe brim, and it just basically slides on like a sleeve. It does take a little maneuvering to get it to fit properly, so you have to make sure that you sew it to the right size. If you make it any smaller, it's going to cause some complications and bending on the brim, so this takes a little careful measurement. So here you are, the brim is covered and the bottom is covered, and now we're ready to move on to the next step. Now it's time for the stop and declare how adorably cute my dogs are time, and that's right now. Okay, you've done your declarations, I hope, so let's move on. We are working on the stovepipe portion of the bonnet. I'm doing a pleat gather in particular this time, but there's no limit to what you can do with the stovepipe portion. If you look at some of the fashion plate pictures that are online and also on some of the period adaptations, they go crazy with the stovepipe. They do diagonal pleats, they do sunburst on the front of the crown, which looks fantastic. There's no end to what you can do. You can also buy pre-textured fabrics and lay them over, or do a smooth one and then wrap it all up with all sorts of crazy embellishments. There's no end. Have fun with it. In this case, I just do a simple pleat gather all around the top, and that's how I start. And here it is with everything kind of roughly glued around the top, and it's kind of loose and skirty on the bottom, and then I just try to pull the gather straight and kind of tack it in place. The ribbon or trim that you choose, or even the same fabric, you can do a little band of the same fabric, will cover up the raw edges along the crown. So here it is now. I used a band of the same fabric to kind of make an interesting horizontal line around the stovepipe, and I used the bronze colored ribbon to not only cover up the raw edge, but also to as ties, and I created some rosettes to cover up the edge of the ribbon tie. And here I've added some feather medallions and some embellishments. At Michael's you can find various what they call feather picks, and all I did was cut off the wire and glue those feathers, little medallions, into place. And they come with a variety of colors, and they're really great to use. And you can also get long feathers and have them arc over the top of the bonnet, like in some of the examples in the first video. So here are a few angles, and here is the bonnet in daylight, so you can see what the real color looks like. It's a periwinkle blue almost. And that's it. It's as simple as that. Once you have the bonnet frame, the sky's the limit. The only recommendation I make is that you use a very light fabric on the buckram, or if you want to use a heavier fabric, use a very heavy buckram, because the heavier the fabric, it'll probably collapse your bonnet frame. And also, I do recommend that you either glue on or sew on some wire around the crown, to at least around the crown of the bonnet, to apply some stability. So I hope that this project has shown you how easy it is to make a really nice bonnet, and enjoy. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact me through the Oregon Regency Society website, which is orregency.org, and I'm always happy to answer questions. And you can find the pattern and any other instructions and stuff you can find on my Etsy shop. So have fun. The address is put here, and happy bonnet making.